Sunday, we play the Cowboys. We've been looking for this game for a very long time. What do we need to be looking out for as far as where we stand to gain ground and where we may be vulnerable? Jason, we'll start with you.
No, this was like I think what Andrew said. Basically, this was the game that everybody's had circled the entire time. And you can bet the 49ers feel the same exact way, right? Like you don't overlook anyone. But when you look at the first 4 weeks and you realize, okay, this is the week that Sunday Night Football, Dallas Cowboys, this is the game, this is your litmus test. I didn't learn anything about the San Francisco 49ers throughout these first 4 weeks. I knew they could win all of these games and they won them in the same fashion that, it was in the range of possibilities. But right now, this is the game that you can really put a stamp to and you can put a thumbtack to and say, this is where your team is right now. And for me, beating the Steelers, beating this team, beating that team, who cares? I mean, they were going to do that regardless. When it comes to Dallas, they match up with you so well. They do a lot of the things that you want to do in terms of like pass rush and all those things. I only learn about the 49ers when they play teams that are on their level.
Hmm.
And I know we hate the Dallas Cowboys so much, but to be frank, the Dallas Cowboys are in that tier that the
Totally.
49ers are in the
Totally.
NFC right now. And that's it. For me, this is going to be the time where the 49ers can. There's one little narrative right now with the 49ers is, oh, they haven't beat anybody. They haven't beat anybody, right? They haven't beat, Steelers, Rams, who cares? Hi, Jim Everett. Rams don't count. None of that stuff, right? Don't matter, right? You beat teams that you're supposed to beat. It's time to beat a team that is in your tier.
Yep.
And if the 49ers do that, now what are you going to say? All of the media and all of the mainstream media and First Take and all those guys,
Stephen Ruiz.
when the 49ers beat the Dallas Cowboys, when they beat them, will absolutely run with the fact that the 49ers are the team to beat. You need to be afraid, blah, 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 blah. This, and that. This is the game that is the litmus test. It was never any of the first 4 weeks. All of those teams are not as good as the 49ers, and they need to beat a team that is in their tier, and that's what the Dallas Cowboys are.
Totally. And when I was looking forward to the schedule before the season started, I saw the Steelers being potentially competitive. I saw the Giants being potentially competitive. And what we ended up, hindsight 2020, is we had four teams that were just very vulnerable, that at this stage of the game do not look like they are going to be playoff teams, or at minimum playoff teams going deep. And you've got the Cowboys, who we knew from the jump had the same type of roster potency as far as what they are capable of at their highest peak, that this matchup has been waiting to collide for a long time. So, Andrew, when you're looking at this matchup, what type of dynamics are you looking at as far as what we're going to be, where we're going to be vulnerable, where we find strength, and how do you think this is all going to end up?
Well, I think the biggest thing to me is the big play factor. Dallas doesn't allow a lot of big plays. They've only allowed 15 explosive plays of
Andrew,
10 plus yards. Yes.
real quick,
Yes.
they played the Giants, the Jets,
Yes.
and the New
Yes.
England Patriots.
Yes. Yes. No, that's absolutely fair. This
Absolutely known for their explosive plays. All
Yeah,
three of them.
well, Zach Wilson,
Yeah, yeah.
you never know with Zach
Matt
Wilson.
Jones pushing the ball down the
McCorkle,
field, 100%.
yeah, dude. Hey, man, but on the same side as this is a test for the Niners, Jason. This is also a test for the Cowboys. Is
Completely.
that a fluke or is that the defense? And I think you're going to see explosive plays from this 49ers offense. Not necessarily because Dallas, the defense is lying to us. It's just this. It's the Niners offense. Christian McCaffrey rolls out of bed and gets 10 yards. That's all he does. And so I think that to me is what I'm most interested in, is see if Dallas is lying to us in stopping the big plays, or if they are vulnerable. I know no Diggs is going to be huge for them, but they have other guys. Bland has, 3 interceptions already, 2 touchdowns. And I know Jason's saying, oh, McCorkle Jones and Zach Wilson and Dan, all that. I love you, Jason. But Gilmore, all of them back there, and so it's a tough secondary, and then Micah Parsons exists, right? And that alone could blow up some of the big plays the Niners have.
Yes, it
So
could.
seeing that is going to be interesting just to see how that ends up playing out. The other thing that really Jason brought to my attention was the Niners pass rush thing, because I don't know, I haven't been on Twitter much, or not pass rush, I apologize, it's secondary. I haven't been on Twitter much recently, so I haven't seen much of the narratives, just doing my own research, but I didn't realize that the Niners were 17th against the pass this year. And Jason and I, we did a live exercise on our podcast, and I got to pull it up. I should have had it ready to go before I mentioned it. The Niners, yes, they have given up the 17th most passing yards in the NFL this year, which doesn't, whatever, that's not that bad. They've also faced the second most pass attempts this year. They have faced 175 pass attempts. They've allowed 873 yards. Number one, Chicago Bears. They have faced the most pass attempts, 178 pass attempts. Mr. Sam, how many yards do you think they've allowed? Do you think it's anywhere near 873?
Perhaps.
No, it's 1,430.
I was going to say I was going to bet the over.
Yeah. Seattle, second place team, 165 pass attempts against you. They're over 1,000, 1,120. Baltimore's at 673, but then Philadelphia, alleged good football team, I don't know. They made Washington look pretty good last week. 164 pass attempts against 200 more yards. And so, yeah, the Niners are giving up yards because they're facing a lot of pass attempts, because, as Jason said, they're blowing teams out.
Blowing people out.
Yeah.
And so,
yep.
Yes.
They're always playing from behind.
On paper, yes, 17th for a defense that's allegedly elite, right? Because they are elite, not allegedly, they are elite. How are they 16th in the league in this one stat? So because teams pass a lot. So I'm curious to see what Dallas does, because they're not necessarily a go deep team right now. They are third in the league. Excuse me, I'm looking for my stat. I lost it. They're third and they're excuse me. Wow, I'm totally lost. Jason, can you finish my thought?
You're the most prepared caller I've ever had on this call-in show.
So the 17th most passing yards, but they're third in the league in passing yards per play. Now, why is that? And that's because the 49ers, and Steve Wilkes talked about this the entire offseason, we will not give up explosive plays. And that's why they are at the bottom of the league in explosive plays. Keep everything in front of you, rally to the football, have that nut job Dre Greenlaw come and knock you out of bounds after the play's been over, all of those things. But that is the point. You can have all those yards. All those yards in context by the end of the game don't matter because the game's over. But per play, they're third in the league. Why is that? It's because they have completely committed to the idea of not giving up explosive plays. And that's exactly what we saw for large stretches of last year, where you're sitting there and you're looking and you're like, man, how is this ball getting over their head? Well, you know what? Tashawn Gibson, Talanoa Hufanga, those guys are not giving up anything now at this point. Everything is all for a reason. Stats need to contextualize what you see on the field. If you're looking primarily at stats, that's what's going to get you in trouble, because if you look and you say, well, the 49ers pass defense is vulnerable, and you post the stat, Dallas Cowboys content creators, whoever you are, that lets me know you haven't watched one single 49ers game and you're not watching any ball and not contextualizing it the right way. I think the 49ers pass defense is fine, and they will finally start to see the sacks roll in.
And then, so what Jason was going to say, just to finish my stat, because I found it. Dallas is 16th in the league offensively, 5.1 yards per play. Typically, you think that a Dallas offense is more high powered than that and big play oriented, but they haven't been there. They've just been kind of going, a little bit at a time. That to me plays into the 49ers' hands, because yes, they play back off in space, but once Dallas starts getting into the red zone area, that space is going to constrict. And in those zones that the Niners are running, Dallas, yeah, they can try those short little routes because they're going to have to, but now with less space, the Niners can't back off as far, and that's where the Niners are really going to take advantage. So I'm really curious to see that battle too, of the Niners secondary maybe a little misaligned in terms of their performance because of the yardage, but Dallas isn't exactly doing much. And yes, also on the other side, it plays into they haven't had to throw much. but show me a little something offensively because you still have to run the ball. You still have to run it. Yeah.
Totally.
And that's the other thing, Andrew, is the Cowboys and Dak Prescott, while I don't have a grip on their offense because of all the things that I talked about earlier on. Like when I was looking at their offense and I was watching them on film, I'm just like watching a team that hasn't had to put things on film because the games have like gotten out of hand like way too early. Dak Prescott isn't pushing the ball down the field. That's not an aggressive offense like right now at this point. And all of those things, even if he wants to get aggressive this week, kind of plays into what the 49ers are guarding against. And that's the part that's weird. It's like the one game that the Dallas Cowboys actually had to use their offense was against the Arizona Cardinals. And in that game, Dak Prescott in the red zone. By the way, the Dallas Cowboys are 30th in red zone efficiency. There's only, by my count, 32 teams in my estimation.
I'm checking that right now.
Yes,
32.
Sure check that. Yes, 32. So there's only 2 teams worse than them in the red zone.